smart technology is here. It's gonna help the Parks and Rec professional. It's not, everybody's like, oh, it's gonna take over, but no, it's really gonna go ahead and help become more efficient. The Parks and Rec staff, the team, can really focus on what's more important. When you have an issue where you need to go turn some lights on, instead of sending somebody, you put it on a smart controller to do it, and then you can go ahead and be out there with the kids or be part of the program where you really need to be.
Welcome to the Daily Parks and Rec Show Leadership Series, hosted by Craig LeBlanc, founder of DPRS Media Network, where we spotlight the visionary leaders shaping the future of parks and recreation. In this episode, we sit down with Dave Ramirez, National Parks and Recreation Specialist and Vice President of Business Development at Outdoorlink, to explore how smart technology is transforming parks and recreation. From the rise of the Internet of Things to connected infrastructure, discover how innovative hardware and real-time data are helping agencies improve operations, increase efficiency, and create safer, smarter public spaces. If you're ready to see what the future of parks looks like, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
All right, we are live again. This is Craig LeBlanc and Dave Ramirez, both with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. We are fellow co-hosts of shows talking about parks and recreation, part of the DPRS Media family of shows. So I host the Leadership Series, which is the show that you're on today, 12 noon Monday through Thursday. But on the second and fourth Mondays of every month, Dave Ramirez hosts Smart Parks Forward. And that's him. Yeah. And it's a technology show. But oftentimes when we think about technology, we think about the software. But did you know that there's hardware that's making all of this stuff work? And there was a phenomenon that came to light maybe about a decade ago. It's probably been longer than that, but it hit my radar about a decade ago. This called IoT, Internet of Things. And it's where originally the only connected device was like this stuff and your computer that you're watching this on. That was considered the devices that had a high enough price point that you could put all the hardware and connect this thing and have massive bandwidth to it. But as all these little devices started to become cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, they were like, we could put these smart devices in light bulbs and switches. And so Dave's company was kind of born out of that Internet of Things play a long time ago. So I think y'all started getting into Internet of Things back in the Lamar sign billboard days, almost like 8-9 years ago, right?
Yeah, well, back in mid 2000s, like 2007 or so, that's when Outdoorlink was sort of born, and we got into basically controlling, monitoring, and managing billboards that you see along the highways all around the country, and basically keeping an eye on the lighting, making sure that they were lit when they were supposed to lit or whatnot, and when they started going digital, to make sure that they are basically running through the cycle accordingly and properly. Yeah. So that's where Outdoorlink was born, and then we've blossomed out into several other things.
Yeah. And that's where we started to come up with the concept of smartphones. Then we had smart switches. We had just smart TVs. It seems like everything. Now we've got like smart refrigerators and smart washers and dryers. And it seems like everything now has somewhat of a little brain inside of it where you can talk to it. And so Internet of Things is those things that we can talk to and control remotely through our, cell phones and desktops and stuff. And so when you talk about the smart homes, now we have entire cities becoming smart cities. And Dave's show is about smart parks. How is the infrastructure becoming more intelligent and more controllable? And that's where his company sits right in the center of. And now it's starting to become apparent because we've got all these smart lawnmowers and smart sprayers. And now we're starting to see, okay, it seems like everything that has electricity plugged into it now has a level of intelligence that we can talk to.
Oh, most definitely. It's just the direction that we're headed. And if anything, I always say on the show that, smart technology is here. It's gonna help the Parks and Rec professional. It's not, everybody's like, oh, it's going to take over, but no, it's really going to go ahead and help become more efficient. And then, the Parks and Rec staff, the team, really focus on what's more important. You know what I'm saying? So when you have an issue where you need to go turn some lights on, instead of sending somebody, you put it on a smart controller to do it, and then you could go ahead and be out there with the kids, or be part of the program where you really need to be.
Yeah. And that's a great point to highlight that. I think AI will take the task, not the job. It'll take the task of having to, Dave's company is a great example. You will no longer have the task, if you work with Dave, of having to drive out and turn the switch off with a physical human hand and stuff. Yeah. Now your task will be running the program, spending time with the community, doing the stuff that really only the human can do. I like to say that, the robots, they'll replace a lot of things and they'll do a lot of things for us, but they won't go run 5 miles for you or do that yoga class or spend time with your grandchild. You can't tell your robot, go build a relationship with my child for me. Right. That's something that you have to do. And that's why I think the Parks and Rec industry is perfectly positioned to thrive in this AI world, because that might be one of the few things we have to do, is to just, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be a community? What does it mean to connect and meet with your community and do, active adult stuff? And so Parks and Rec is right at the heart of that in every city in America. And I think Dave Companies just allows us to refocus on what our why is. Our why in Parks and Rec, I've never heard somebody say, my why is to go turn off light switches off and on. It's always
that's right.
Much more meaningful. Obviously, that's some of the work we have to do to run this infrastructure, but Dave's company allows you to just do that on a timer that you can just program, and then get to the real meat of what you do in the Parks and Rec department, which is serve your community, build connection, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and when we talk about our smart controller, it has evolved as well through the years, where it's more than just a controller and a schedule feature. It's, we're pulling reports. You could see what you're burning wattage. You could see who's using the lights. Who's turning them on, who's turning them off. We've evolved that controller to do so much more. And it's helping Parks and Rec. We got camera features. We got everything that's really what people are looking for. Our engineering team based in Huntsville, man, they are just on it, and they listen to me, man. I always like to throw ideas at them, because I hear the ideas from the Parks and Rec folks around the country. So when I get something, I throw it at them and see what we could do and how we could build it, add it in, and offer it.
Yeah. And so Dave's one of our many talented show hosts who has a very extensive background in Parks and Rec. So Dave's not just speaking as some, equipment engineer that's trying to serve this industry. He was the one being served, because he spent 30 years in this industry, having to control this infrastructure and making sure everything was running properly so that the programmers of our industry could do their job. So when he talks, he kind of can speak from both angles. He's been on the side of using stuff like Outdoorlink to efficiently run your city's infrastructure. And now he's on the side of helping them to try to get all this stuff plugged in and become a smart park and become a smart city. And so I think he speaks with a lot of authority that a lot of us, I think, that we don't appreciate. And he's got some kind of radio. Don't you have like some kind of radio passion or background back when your younger days?
Oh, that's what I actually went to school for. It's for broadcasting and mass communications. And, I got to use that in my Parks and Rec career. But now, coming off, retiring from that, coming over to the private sector, working with Outdoorlink, I have an opportunity to use it a little bit more. So I'm loving it. It's sort of like that, that second career, second life type situation, and loving it. This is a great opportunity to be on the show and be part of the DPRS network. I'm enjoying it, and getting them, really talk to really good people and share their stories and share what they're using technology wise. And, and then, in the Parks and Rec field, Craig, there's always a story to tell, something that has happened in your career that either is going to make you laugh, make you think, or make you sad. But then, those are things that we brought, that are part of our lives, and sometimes sharing it with others is the best way to, really let people know what Parks and Rec professionals are all about.
Yeah. And, when we first started this, it was just me and a microphone and Sherry, and that was it. And then I met Dave at I think we met at Alabama, correct?
That's correct. Alabama Parks and Rec
That's
show.
right. We met there, and he came as a guest on the show, and we started connecting and saying, man, it looks like we can work together and stuff. And then eventually they became our first sponsor for the Daily Parks and Rec show. And they kind of believed in us when it was literally just a concept. Just let's see if we can get this going and stuff. And they supported us from the early days. Fast forward to today, by the end of this month, we're going from one show, the leadership series, which is this show, to by the end of this month, we'll have 21 shows, 21 show hosts, all talking about Parks and Rec and the different segments of it. And Dave's now just one of those shows that airs on Mondays, on the second and fourth Monday of the month. But yeah, let's chat about, Carlo, if you want to actually go ahead and pull up the YouTube. I want to encourage everybody to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Right.
Fortunately or unfortunately, we built most of this network on LinkedIn and Facebook, but they don't really do a good job of having a content library that you can go back and look at some of these old episodes, which are great for continuing education. But our entire content library exists on our YouTube channel, so you can see all of Dave's old shows, Wesley's all the different shows are right there, so that if you are a aquatics professional and you want to have something for continuing education, you can see Wesley's entire playlist, and you can learn all about aquatic centers and how to run those. And then we also have all that content now being uploaded to Spotify. So for those listeners that just want to listen on a run or a drive, now they can listen to us on Spotify. They can view our channels and all of our content on YouTube. But here's the problem we have. This is where I need y'all's help. We cannot go live on YouTube until we get 1,000 subscribers. And we picked up like 150 new subscribers just in the last week, thanks to everybody subscribing to it. So if you don't mind, go ask everyone you know, even if it's your kids and your aunts and your uncles, to just go subscribe to the channel so that we can have yet another platform where we can pump out this great Parks and Rec content live on YouTube. Let's go ahead and pull up the list of shows. It's kind of like our little TV guide. I don't know if Carlos has that ready. All right, so this is kind of dated. I think there's only maybe 10 shows here, so we're going to have an additional 11 that we're going to add to this. But you can see Dave's on Monday. He's the one at the bottom, says Smart Parks Forward. We also have, with the help of Amelia, they do a show. They're actually moving to once a week. We're going to pick a different time slot so they can go every week. And that's where we talk about the software side. And then on Tuesdays, a friend of ours, John Prue, he's been on the NRPA board. He spent 40 years working with MWR. For those that are not familiar with that term, it stands for Morale, Welfare, and Recreation. And that's basically Parks and Rec for military bases. And so every Tuesday, John does a show about what's going on in Parks and Rec as far as the military bases. And Dave, I didn't know if you knew this. Do you know what they call a Park and Rec director on a military base?
You got to quiz me on that, and
I just found out.
I do not know the answer.
So I found out like 2 weeks ago. They call him the fun boss. That's his official
fun boss.
Fun boss.
Well, hey, I've heard of that. Never. I'm sure that has been used in many places, but that's a great title.
Yeah, I love that title. I was like, man, we need to rebrand the Park and Rec director. Call him the fun boss. That really is what they do. All right, so then we move to Wednesday. We have a nice group of shows on Wednesday. We have 12 noon. We have this show, and then at the 1:30 time slot, we have the Rec Room and Safe Spaces, both with partnership with Henry County, Georgia, and Thomas White. They do a great job talking about mental health. The Rec Room is where the entire department picks one topic once a month and just brings all their stakeholders. So whether they're talking about facilities maintenance or master planning or festivals, and then they just show how, kind of like pull the curtain back and see how a team runs a certain part of Parks and Rec. And then after that at 3 p.m., this is one of our latest shows, we have Arts in Parks and Rec. Beatrice has really taken a lot of our shows up a notch because she is a true journalist. She's a reporter for the Hispanic community and has been doing this for a while. She's also a world-renowned choreographer that makes MTV videos and Hollywood films and stuff. But she also has been running for 20 years a ballet school inside her Parks and Rec departments, so that, Parks and Rec is always focused on making sure that we're not leaving a chunk of the population out because they can't afford to do a little football league or something. They always make it affordable, and they'll even go pick these kids up that don't have a ride. And so if you have a child in ballet school or ballet classes, that can be really expensive. And so a lot of kids just can't even do that. But because of Parks and Rec, Beatrice has been able to offer her programs for 20 years to children that otherwise would not be able to afford what she does. And so she has a show that talks about arts in Parks and Rec, the performing arts, the visual arts, painting, dancing, musicians, you name it, across America. So I really like her highlighting how arts is kind of run in Parks and Rec through their programming. And that brings us to Thursday after my show. Matter of fact, immediately following this show, we have the Youth Sports Mastery Show with Aaron Locks. He's booked almost for the entire year on Thursday, so he picked up a second show on Tuesdays now. He's going to run another Youth Sports Mastery Show, and he did his first one last Tuesday. And so you can see his show twice a week, and it's where we're talking about rec sports. And when we think about sports in Parks and Rec, it's really more about all-inclusive. It's not necessarily just catering to the elite little athletes, but all the kids that get to play sports. And that's such a big chunk of what we do. And Dave, I think that was kind of your life.
That was my role before retirement. I was in charge of, as the athletic director here in Hillsborough County, Florida. And I love Aaron's show just because, I have always been that rec-minded parks person. Because not every kid's going to be a superstar, make it to the pros or whatnot. So you got to, I think the focus is just making sure those younger kids nowadays go have fun, learn something, be with their friends, stay energetic and active. I think that's great. I think that's a great focus. And because like I said earlier, not every kid's going to go to college to play a sport. They just want to play when they're younger and stay busy and stay active. So I love the premise of the show. I love what Aaron's talking about and doing there, and it's a good one. Definitely a good one.
Yeah, and I had a great guest yesterday on my show out in is it Huntington Beach, California, I think. And she was a basketball player, college basketball player. She was a sports official in high school. And we talked a lot about the women's basketball phenomenon that's kind of just, Caitlin Clark is really elevating that whole female sports up to where it seems like all the little boys could look at Michael Jordan as their hero. But, it wasn't until I guess Caitlin kind of hit the WNBA by storm that now all the little girls kind of have their little Michael Jordan that they're looking up to. And so sports is really evolving. And I think Parks and Rec is right at the heart of that.
Oh yeah, when earlier in my career, flag football for girls really wasn't there. A few played with the boys. Now there's full out leagues just for girls playing flag football and other sports. I think it's great. You know what I'm saying? I think it's needed. You know what I'm saying? Because whatever we could offer young people to get outside and stay active is a plus. You know what I'm saying? Because there's so much temptation for them to go ahead and be in front of a computer or on a phone or something. So, get creative, offer good, well-rounded programs for kids to get out there and run, sweat, and play a little bit and learn. Yeah. I think it's great.
Yeah, and we have all these new ways to be active adults, active kids, active families. Back in the day, you could either pick between baseball, football, and maybe soccer or something. But, Parks and Rec is launching pickleball leagues, flag football, lacrosse, and a lot of that has its beginning in Parks and Rec departments. They're the ones putting together these leagues for all these new different sports that kids can participate in throughout the year.
Yeah, it's great. It's good stuff.
Yeah. And then we have, at the end of the day on Thursdays, we have our 5 p.m. Young Professionals Network. This really talks about the next generation of Parks and Rec leaders. And so that show is geared for these populations. If you are a kid studying or a college student studying to be in Parks and Rec, if this is your first 1 to 5 years and you're just trying to, get your bearings straight on what is Parks and Rec, and it's a lot to learn within those first 1 to 5 years. But also, if you're a professor that teaches, if you're a mentor to future leaders, or if you have a strong internship program, we'd love to have you as a guest on the show. We've had several directors come on with their interns and talk about their internship program. So that's all on the Young Professionals Network show at 5 p.m. And then to close out the week, we've got Papa J, which is kind of like a continuation of the leadership series where we're interviewing the directors and leaders of Parks and Rec. He came on as a show host. I think he's probably coming up on his 5th or 6th week, recently retired, highly decorated Parks and Rec professional. So really glad to have him on the team. And then the last show of the week is Wesley's show with the Aquatics Life. It's a great show producing evergreen content that can be used as continuing education. And that's our lineup. We've got 5 new shows coming up. We're going to do a show on golf. I'm waiting on Dave and Papa J to do a show on fishing in Parks and Rec.
Oh, you're putting it out there now. So, hey, fishing and outdoors, Papa J and I, man, we're going to put it together, man. That's for us, it's a passion. That's what we like to do on our own time. But to go ahead and talk about it and share knowledge about it. When during my career, before getting into the athletics role, I was teaching. I was a manager for a set of recreation facilities throughout a region, but I was also doing saltwater fishing and outdoor camps, to get kids back outside. And that was probably one of the better parts of my career. Love being out there and teaching a kid that never touched a rod and reel or baited a hook to go ahead and, after a couple of weeks during the summer to be able to teach them how to do that. And just, I guess my passion, just push that onto them and see those kids at the bait shop locally buying bait and going fishing with their families after my camp. I loved it.
Yeah. And a great example. So Parks and Rec department I was very close to was Pensacola, Florida. And you see these throughout the country where you have Parks and Rec departments that are running facilities on waterfront property. And so they'll have their community center where they run programming, but they also have these rental facilities where they have like these rowing teams and they rent canoes and kayaks. And they're really putting people out in the water for fishing and rowing and all that kind of stuff. And really throughout America, you've got a lot of waterfront properties being owned and managed by municipal government through their Parks and Rec departments. So I think that would be a great excuse for y'all to go fishing and highlight Parks and Rec departments that are.
Wherever I go in my travels, I try to wet a line and fish. And I went to the Sourcewell conference over in Minnesota. Brainerd, Minnesota. And that was the first time I got to actually fish there and got onto one of these beautiful lakes up there and fish for, walleye and stuff that I don't catch here in Florida. So it was amazing, but you're right. There's somewhere, every state's got somewhere where you could go ahead and enjoy a little bit of waterfront entertainment.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've got a whole list of shows that we're doing now. We've got a whole list of shows that are in concept, and we're kind of looking to build over this next year or two, all in an effort to have a true media company that talks about Parks and Rec and all the ways that it serves its community and builds connection. So with that being said, let's go ahead and run our little transition that kind of highlights a lot of them. Chris is working on building a new one with all the different shows, but this is kind of what we have now. And then Carla, why don't you go ahead and play the Outdoorlink promo? Actually, no, play Dave's show promo, the Smart Parks Forward promo after the transition, and then we'll come back and start our conversation with Dave.
Sounds good.
The future of Parks and Recreation isn't coming, it's already here. Across communities everywhere, technology is transforming how parks connect, engage, and serve the people who rely on them. From smart amenities and connected infrastructure to real-time data and innovative solutions, a new generation of parks is taking shape. Welcome to Smart Parks Forward, presented by DPRS Media Network and co-produced by Outdoorlink. Each episode brings you the leaders, innovators, and visionaries driving the future of parks and recreation. Discover groundbreaking ideas, real-world success stories, and the technologies helping agencies create safer, smarter, and more connected communities. Because great parks don't just improve spaces, they improve lives. The future is connected. The future is intelligent. The future is now. This is Smart Parks Forward.
Yeah, congratulations on that show, Dave. It's really coming together.
Thank you.
Yeah, so before we get started, I did want to take a chance to just reflect on our 250th birthday for our country. It's a great time to be an American. I don't think a lot of people understand the rich history we have and how close we were to not being a country. A friend of mine sent me a little article on the Star Spangled Banner, and I wish I was digging for it, but I'll kind of sum it up. Essentially, the British had already burned Washington, D.C., and the last stronghold was Baltimore. And the Americans were pretty much decimated, and they just needed to conquer this one fort. And the admiral for the British was like, "We are just going to bombard this fort." And I forget the name of it. It's Fort McHenry. And they, for 24 hours, just bombarded this fort. And the only sign that America was still surviving was the flag standing up. And what they don't tell you is that what was holding that flag up was the dead bodies of our patriots, whose bodies had been destroyed, and another soldier would go up and just hold that flag up, because they were like, as long as the flag still stood. But in the early morning, as the sun came up, they looked at this just tattered flag that had just been hit by cannon shot and everything. And that because that flag still stood, they knew that America was still alive. And that's, he wrote, after seeing this scene, he wrote the Star Spangled Banner. And had that flag fallen, the British would have won, and we would not be a nation anymore. But we survived, and 250 years later, we're still celebrating that. And Parks and Rec departments, this is like a big major holiday, and this upcoming holiday is the biggest ever. And so maybe you can talk about how y'all have helped celebrate over the years through Parks and Rec the 4th of July, and what Parks and Rec do for that event.
Well, you know, when it comes to Parks and Rec, you know, for many, it's time to enjoy a weekend with family and friends and celebrate our country. But parks, they're out there working. You know, everybody's having festivals and special events and to, you know, honor our country and the holidays. So, you know, just, you know, I always like to go ahead and give that extra thank you, you know, to the Parks and Rec staffs around the country, because, you know, without them, you know, there wouldn't be these special events and these activities for kids and families to enjoy. Somebody's got to do it. You know what I'm saying? And that's where Parks and Rec steps right in. You know, when a big city or small city, you know what I'm saying? Their leadership, if it's a commissioner or a mayor, you know, they're looking at the Parks and Rec department to go ahead and create and put something together and conduct it. You know, so, you know, while we're enjoying our time off, you know, they're out there busting it, you know, working hard. So thank you, Parks and Recreation, for around the country for, you know, getting ready to provide a great weekend for everybody.
Yeah. And we have another cause for celebration. Dave's fearless leader, DJ, he's an entrepreneur, second generation. The last couple of weeks, I think they were in London, and they got nominated to potentially receive an award, and they didn't know if they were going to get it and stuff, but they got nominated and received one of the most prestigious awards that a company could ever get. So Dave, why don't you talk about the award that Outdoorlink received and celebrate that a little bit?
Oh, I'm very proud to be part of this team with Outdoorlink. Like I had said earlier, the company started, when it comes to the out-of-home billboard type of monitoring and controls, and of course continue to still do so. So recently, a month or so ago, we were in London at the World Out-of-Home Organization Annual Congress, which is a huge conference, from billboard companies and out-of-home companies from around the world, all convened to London. And we were nominated for an award, and we received it. We received it was the Global Sustainability Award for 2026. Wow. So basically, it's showing everybody that this company, our products and services are allowing other companies and businesses to work more efficiently and be more sustainable. Everything from energy consumption, decreasing carbon emissions, eliminating unnecessary visits like in Parks and Rec, but still, for billboard world, they used to have to go ahead and send somebody out to make sure that things were working and whatnot. These are the things that our controller is helping everybody out with in the business. And for us to go ahead and receive this is an honor. It speaks volumes of the leadership here at the company and where they've come from. A small family-owned business out of Huntsville, Alabama, and we are getting recognized globally for what we build and maintain and do. So again, very proud of the team.
Yeah. And I know a lot of us kind of have fear that some of these efficiency gains are going to take our jobs. And it reminds me of this old economist, Milton Friedman. I've been following him for a long time. He's passed away now. But he tells this story of how he was looking at these people digging a ditch. And he said, why don't we use one of these big new track hose to dig that ditch? And they were like, well, if we do that, then we're not going to have, they're going to lose their job. And he's like, well, if that's the case, then why don't we just give everybody a teaspoon to dig the ditch?
Jeez.
And he just highlights that, it's as important it is for us to have a strong workforce and a labor, all have jobs. At the same time, some of these efficiency gains allows us to do the meaningful work that we're doing in Parks and Rec. It allows us to, be forward facing to our communities. And Dave is really and his company is just helping you run an efficient Parks and Rec department so that you can do the most meaningful work, which is serving your community.
Definitely. My relationship with Outdoorlink began, I was a client of theirs. We were having problems with things and we needed a solution, and Outdoorlink, their team, their engineers listened, and we were able to go ahead and build a platform specifically for Parks and Rec to help out with the needs and the pain points. And, me coming on, basically I gave them a laundry list. Hey, if you want to be successful in Parks and Rec, here's what you got to do. Here's what you got to provide. Make it simple. You know what I'm saying? Because we're busy. We got so much else going on our plates. We don't want 15 steps to turn a light off. So keep it simple and just make it reliable and dependable. And that's what we've done, and that was years ago, and then again, after my retirement, I took a little time off and spoke with Outdoorlink, and an offer came in. They needed somebody that has lived it, and that was me. And after 32 years, I lived many scenarios and situations in Parks and Rec. So came on board with them, and it's been a great relationship, and love what I'm doing, and love the way we're expanding what we do and how we serve the Parks and Rec industry.
Yeah, and just to double down on that point of keeping it simple, I think we all have had that Amazon experience where, none of us have ever spoken to anybody on Amazon. They make their user interface so simple. They remind you, do you want to buy this? You bought this last month. And it's just very simple and intuitive for even someone that's not very techy. And so to design a clean, simple user interface, it's really important to have those software engineers in-house that can take Dave's feedback being one of the Parks and Rec directors and saying, hey, we need to make sure that anybody on our staff can run our software. You don't have to be some IT support to be able to do it. So maybe just speak about a little bit more about how simple it is to be onboarded to Outdoorlink and then to use your software to control your infrastructure.
Well, just to go ahead and just keep it real, not short, but the onboarding process, once our controllers are installed, takes about 15 minutes, maybe 20. All right. And that's going through, setting up users, all the tips and tricks that are built into the system that will help you do your job the best way. Again, it's just, the platform, we have an app and a portal, very, very simple. And just, I'll share with you now, we're getting ready to go ahead and roll out a new user interface for the portal. That's going to make it even better. It's going to be even more simple and easier to use. And you're going to get all the information you need with just a couple of, keystrokes, and it's done. Again, like I said, there's not, it's as simple as a toggle switch on your computer that you click on and off, to go ahead and turn a light on and off, or to go ahead and hit a button and set a schedule and plug in a time, and plug in the days when you want it to come on and off. That's what it's about. When you look at some of the older technology, and I lived it with the old school Intermatic controllers, basically you had to go in and pull plugs and set a dial. And then if there was a power outage, that whole thing went down, and you'd have to go back and, you get the calls that, oh, the lights are on at 3:00 in the afternoon. Well, it's because that power was out and the timer wasn't working properly. With us, it's a cellular system. So it stays live. The power goes down. When it's restored, it goes right back to where it was. There's no going in and resetting anything. Everything stays the way it is. And that's huge. You know what I'm saying? Because if you think about, some big towns, if you have timers on basketball courts and the power goes out for a significant amount of time, you're going around and driving to hundreds of locations to go ahead and reset a timer.
Right.
It's nuts. It's just too much. Gas prices, everything else going on. Come on, let's work smart and easy.
Yeah. Yeah. And every time I ask Parks and Rec professionals, what's your why? Again, they never say my why is turning off light switches. It's always has something to do with serving the community. And that's what Outdoorlink allows you to do, is just stay focused on let them help you run the infrastructure, and that way you can serve your community. And the pain point, I think, when technologies are first born is they're complex and hard to use. And then your company, along with many other companies, has done a great job in making it very simple and easy to use. I think the litmus test is if grandma can figure out how to run it in 7 minutes, you're there. And I remember Tasha told me, she's like, yeah, our onboarding process is 15 minutes, but 7 of those minutes are just, how are the kids? How are y'all doing?
That's right. Being a little, well, that's us. Again, we're a smaller company, so we're in the relationship business as well. We want to learn and learn about our clients and our customers, because we're here, for them, you know what I'm saying? And it's if it's calling me here in Florida or calling our customer support, which is 24/7 out of Huntsville, or the rest of the Parks and Rec team, or Tasha, or anybody at the office, we're here to go ahead and make sure if our customers have any questions or need any help, we're here to give them answers and assist them when needed.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's another great point I wanted to highlight, is that a lot of customer support is third-partied out to somebody overseas. When you call Outdoorlink, somebody with a probably thick Alabama accent is going to answer the phone and help you out 24/7 if you have any problems. And that's really important to have a US-based design teams, hardware, software, and definitely the customer service team, all based here in the US.
Yeah.
So yeah, great job on that.
Oh yeah, that was one of the things that when I was on the other side as a client of Outdoorlink, I know I could go ahead and call I had a lot of controllers, 60 plus controllers at 55 sports complexes around Hillsborough County to Tampa Bay area, which is huge.
Yeah.
Whenever I had a problem, if I couldn't get there, I know I could call that customer service and they could go in and do that diagnostic check. They could see on their end what was going on and let me know. So if there was a power issue, then I knew I had to send somebody down. If it was a connectivity issue, they were able to do a reboot and get it up and running for me. So it was nice. Again, there was a relationship built there when I was on the other side.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to use this as our little halftime break since we ran long on our introduction. We're going to thank this great company called Outdoorlink and highlight their services. And then we also want to thank the National Academy of Athletics. They've been sponsoring us again, a very old sponsor. Aaron Locks is also the host of the show coming up next, the Youth Sports Mastery Show. And when we come back, I want to dig a little into Dave's career as a Parks and Rec professional. And then I want to dig into his career because Dave, y'all might not know this, has been traveling. How many Parks and Rec events did you attend in the last 12 months, you think?
Oh my gosh. A couple of dozen.
Yeah.
At least. So it's one or two a month, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. So we can talk about the different cultures of Parks and Rec, because what I've noticed is a lot of these states, how Parks and Rec is in Colorado is totally different than how it's in New Jersey, is different than how it is in Florida. And there's just all these different cultures, all kind of tied together with the same mission of serving their community. And Dave's got to experience that and see these in person as he travels across the country working with Outdoorlink. But caller, why don't you go ahead and run the Outdoorlink and the National Academy of Athletics promo, and we'll come back and finish up our conversation with Dave.
Sounds great.
In today's parks and recreation industry, communication, safety, and efficiency go hand in hand. That's where Outdoorlink comes in, delivering smart technology that empowers city departments and community planners to do more, smarter. Outdoorlink's platform connects and automates everything that keeps your parks running smoothly, from lighting and locks to signage, water features, Wi-Fi, and digital advertising. Control and schedule park lights for safety and energy savings. Remotely manage facility access. Coordinate fountains and splash pads. Provide public connectivity. All from one simple, unified platform, giving you real-time control, data, and cost efficiency. For parks and recreation agencies, that means safer spaces, smarter resource use, faster responses, and stronger community engagement. And behind every great park story is great infrastructure. That's why Outdoorlink proudly supports DPRS Media Company, helping the daily Parks and Rec Show amplify the voices of professionals shaping our communities every day. Outdoorlink, smart, connected solutions for parks, recreation, and beyond.
They say it's just rec. Just rec, where kids learn to try again. Just rec, where confidence begins. Where teamwork, effort, and fun matter more than trophies. It's not about perfection. It's about participation. It's not just rec. It's where kids learn to love the game and themselves. It's just rec until they learn teamwork for life. It's just rec, but it's everything to them. It's more than rec. It's a movement. It's just rec until you realize it's shaping the next generation. Together, we're not just running programs. We're building a culture of confidence, connection, and community. Join us.
I love watching that Aaron's commercial. It's if you haven't coached little kids and watched them, chase the soccer ball around in little herds, that's got to be one of the funnest things to do.
Definitely.
Yeah, but maybe we can talk about, tell us about your early career into Parks and Rec. How did you get into it, and kind of what did that mean to you? What was the why that drove you back then?
Well, I was a park kid, so moving, a single mom, come to Florida from New York. Mom was working, I needed somewhere to go after school and during the summer. So I went to the park. and I jumped right into programming at their that type of programming for parks and for after school and summer. And through the years, I ended up becoming a youth volunteer. Teens. I was out there working with coaches, and went all the way to summer work. And then got hired on in 1991 as a full-time Parks and Rec leader. Here back in the day, it was very rural towns in Tampa where I grew up. So there wasn't much else to do but the parks, so, I dove in and I loved it. Got hired while I was in school, and just stayed with the career. And in like 2 or 3 years, I was, moved up the ladder and was the youngest recreation center manager in the county at the time. And in a small town here in Gibsonton, Florida, and got to go ahead and start with a program with about 30 kids, and built a team around me, and within a year we had 200 plus kids at that rec site for our programs and whatnot. And did that for a long time. I stayed in the recreation side of my career for nearly 20 of those years. And then after it was time for me to move on and take that next step. And I went ahead and did a little bit of all. I worked with teens as a teen specialist. I was a volunteer coordinator for the department, and then got into the athletic part of the department for the latter part of my career. So I was able to, I could say I took every step on the ladder to get to where I was before I left, from a volunteer all the way up to a leadership and director type role. So I loved it. What I'm saying? Again, I think the reason I jumped into the career, it was that mentorship and of those coaches when I was a child, when I was a kid, because I looked up to them, what I'm saying? And they, my mom worked hard, and I had to be at the park a little more often probably than some kids. And, those folks were my mentors, my coaches, man, I could count on them. My senior prom, I have my date and I'm running by the rec center to see my coaches, what I'm saying? And say, hey, how's it going? That they were family, they were extended family for me. So, that I give all my coaches in the past that credit to get me to where I got to in the field.
Yeah.
And then I had some amazing leaders in my career. Carolyn McGee, Joe Ragukas, Ed Radis, all those were all my directors and managers in my career that really molded me to get where I wanted to be and to end up doing that job and, retiring from that job. So, it's a people thing, it's really getting to know folks and Parks and Rec folks, they care. What I'm saying? Yeah. It's a hard job. It's not easy, but boy, they put that extra effort in to make sure, kids feel good about themselves.
Yeah. And I see you kind of glossed over that volunteer organization. I think a lot of people aren't aware how much volunteer plays a part in running our Parks and Rec. Tell people how many volunteers you manage at its peak.
Oh my gosh, there was tens of thousands of volunteers when I came in and started working with what was there and then built into it. If I'm not mistaken, if I can remember the numbers properly, the dollar value of a volunteer, back in the day, they put a dollar value to every volunteer hour. And I think in Hillsborough County, we were like, $2.7 million of volunteer hours from the folks that were spending time at our parks doing all different things, from volunteer coaches to answering phones, at community centers, from, out there doing landscape and keeping the flower beds or community gardens and, field trips, chaperones, anything, and the thing is, the volunteers started at teenagers and went all the way up into the seniors. Some of the best volunteers I had were, 70 plus. And, they were like grandma and grandpas at the park, for these kids, and all they did is they helped out. They did roll call. They gave out snacks, but as the person in charge, I appreciated them so much. And I think for them, they just appreciated that they were able to do something and give back. And again, that was a great part of my career as well, is to go ahead and do that program. I did that program. I was overseeing that program for about 4 years or so, and before moving into athletics. And like I said, we would have that big party once a year to celebrate all of our volunteers, and food, drink, entertainment and stuff. And it was well worth it. Some folks put in thousands of hours within a year's time.
Wow. And really, if you, now that I've interviewed so many Parks and Rec directors, it's such a common story, a common thread, that their first step into Parks and Rec was just volunteering as a coach, as a ref. They would maybe work the concession stand as like their first part-time job. So you've got like volunteers, first part-time job, or being a summer camp counselor. And then next thing you know, you get an internship, and next thing you know, you're like, I'm in Parks and Rec full time. But a lot of that just starts with volunteering. It really is.
And I still today, whenever I have the opportunity to volunteer with Parks and Rec, or anything, one thing is, volunteers, we sort of outreach and branch out into other things. Here in the Tampa Bay area, we had a great relationship with Keep Tampa Bay Beautiful, which is an affiliate of Keep America Beautiful. And we would get out there and do cleanups and waterway cleanups and park cleanups, as groups, and that was great, because there was always that partnership to do more. Not that the Parks Department itself had enough, but we always wanted to go ahead and find different things to do and just help our communities out more.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, so now let's talk about your tour of the country as you're going from state to state. What's the different cultures like? And tell us about some of the states that you visited over the last 24 months or 12.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's funny because I'm going to go ahead and, when you go to a conference, they give you these badges, right? So you could identify yourself, and when you're networking and meeting people or whatnot. On my wall here next to my monitor, I probably have 300, maybe between 300 and 350 of these badges hanging up on an old tie rack I put on the wall.
I love it.
I do, man. I keep them there. It sort of keeps me grounded in what I'm doing now in my career. But no, Outdoorlink has offered, has supported me. When I came on board overseeing their Parks and Rec division, I said, listen, we need to get out and get known. You know what I'm saying? And what better way to get known is to go to these Parks and Rec conferences around the country. Mm-hmm. I've been a member with the Florida Recreation Park Association probably since 2000. You know what I'm saying? When I was in the field, I still am a member today as a commercial member. But I said, listen, these organizations, it's all Parks and Rec. I said, and that is the market. Those are the folks we need to go ahead and be in front of. So with the support of the team, I started traveling. The first year it was just me. And I have traveled I'm in Florida, but I've been to Washington and California, and as far, been to Chicago, Minnesota, New York. We've been over the team. Once the team got built, we were over in Vermont and Massachusetts, everything in between, Texas. What we got coming up is, let me think here. We have at the end of August that, right now is sort of a hiatus. So the team, we have the Florida show and the Arizona show, and I'll be heading to Arizona at the end of August. And then I'm headed to Oregon in September for their show. And I'm loving it. This is for having that career in Parks and Rec and for local government for so many years. You got your time off and you did your traveling and stuff. I love getting out there and meeting people in the Parks and Rec from around the country, because like you had mentioned, there's differences. And I love taking in the differences and asking questions, and then for me, I'm seeing different things, so when I go to a park and see a type of playground at this park and then compare it to like one in another state or one in another state, it's sort of neat how they theme things up, and then, when you're in Florida, Arizona, certain parts of the country, it's year round park recreation outside. To go ahead and go to Chicago in January for a conference, totally different than down here in Florida. So but then I asked, I said, tell me about Parks and Rec in January in Chicago. And there are so many other things going on that are not indoor, that not outside, but indoors. So our friends in Minnesota, I'm saying, they're, some of those areas are like, negative 40 degrees in wintertime. But boy, they're playing hockey and doing indoor sports and keeping that Parks and Rec alive. When people could get out, they're staying busy at the parks.
Yeah. Yeah. When we met, or actually a big shout out to Joseph, I met Outdoorlink at the Louisiana Parks and Rec Association, and he was like, you need to meet Dave. And he said, are you going to Alabama? And then that's when we met at Alabama. Yep. But Alabama, to show you the differences between these conferences, Alabama does a conference every year on Orange Beach, which is on the Gulf. You're when you're doing your breakout sessions, the windows behind you show the beach. And then I recently went to, which Joseph was there, to Illinois, to Chicago, and it was -4. It was all pretty much underground, and it just could not be two different ones. But all Parks and Rec, these conventions are unbelievable to attend. Maybe talk about what are some of your others that you've attended. Have you gone to the Colorado one yet? I've heard that one.
We went to the Colorado one, and it was, got to see snow. And then whatnot. It was, Colorado is a great show. Like I said, all shows are different, but they all have the same game plan. It's education. It's teaching folks, what's trending and what's hot and what's happening in Parks and Rec, or, not only in that state, but around the country, and then you got, your vendor expos and everything else. So you get to go out and experience new technology, new equipment, new, everything new is coming to you at that. And so it doesn't matter if you're a director or if you're an entry level parks person, you go in and grab that information. I always used to love when I was in a rec leader, I'd grab that information and bring it back to and share it with my supervisors and my boss, and say, listen, did you see this? Because sometimes they may not grab it or not at the show, and I am. So it's gathering information. Those educational sessions, I always love to go ahead and take that back and share it with my team, because everybody can't go. So there's an education series right there, what I'm saying, for what I'm learning at conference. Yeah. But the conference, the executive directors of these associations, they all communicate with each other too. You got Florida, Texas, Illinois, and California that are huge. And then you got your Mississippis and Louisianas and Maryland, smaller towns that are very small. But, you come in and the rec person is the same. It doesn't matter if you're in LA or if you're in, a small town in Mississippi. They all have the same heart and feeling about the Parks and Rec field, and you just see it in different ways. I love it. I love seeing it. And I come back with some stories and share with the team of what I've learned and who I met. And again, like I had said earlier, it's building those relationships. You know what I'm saying? They may not need a product right now, but that's okay. They get to know us. And I'll check in with them every now and then. Saying, or they know they could call me if they have a question.
Yeah. All right. So as we're kind of wrapping up the end of our show, one of the traditions.
That was quick.
I know that just flew by. I was at the 56-minute mark. Right. So we have a little tradition on the leadership series where my previous guest left you a question. And so yesterday's guest was Ashley Thiel in Huntington Beach, California. It was a phenomenal interview. That was yesterday. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, it was just, she has a great story, and what they're doing with their public library is just amazing. But the question she left for you is, this is Ashley, episode number 605. If you knew what you knew now, what would you share with yourself? What kind of conversation would you have with yourself about Parks and Rec?
Oof. Okay. Well, if I think back to 1991 when I started, I probably, my gosh, that is a good question. If I had to tell myself now from then, I would say probably take more notes and jot things down from the experiences, because I had a lengthy career, and I try to remember everything that I did. And I know when in storytelling, I'm missing out on a lot of the good things from back in the day. So if I could have went ahead and videotaped it or just documented it, and anything that was fulfilling to me, I wish I would have done more of that. I do remember a lot, but I don't remember everything. But it's the funniest thing, Craig, because I'll run into they're adults with children now that were my kids at the park. And they start talking about things, and I love hearing the stories of the influences from the team and I at the park to them, and I think about it now. I'm like, yeah, we did do that. You know what I'm saying? We did, and then it makes me feel good. I love on my personal social media accounts. There's a lot of my old participants, after I've left or they become adults, and they come on and they share their lives of what's going on and what the influences myself, the team, and Parks and Rec has done for them. So I guess that would be it. I just sort of try to jot down and some of the good stuff from back in the day so you don't forget it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that goes to, make sure you take life in, enjoy the present moment. Don't be so wrapped up into what happened or what could happen, but enjoy what's going on in front of you right now. Otherwise you wake up and 30 years later and you missed it.
That's right. That's right. And like I said, for me to come on, do my time, retire, come out of retirement and do something different, totally different. Because earlier in my career, Craig, I was not a tech. I was your athletic person, sports, run and play, get dirty, sweat, and now I'm on the tech side of on the private sector, Parks and Rec. And I never would have thought I would have been doing what I'm doing now. Loving it. It's just a great, I'm surrounded by great people, and I have the support of my wife and family, which is even better. So it's good stuff, and if I have to, I'm going to go ahead and if I have to leave a question for your next guest, I'm going to be a little bit more light about it though. And I'm going to, because is your next guest going to be on Monday?
Yeah, it's going to be on Monday.
All right, man. Then I want to know what was their favorite food that they ate over the 4th of July weekend.
Oh, that's it. That's a good one.
We'll keep it simple. Hey, 4th of July, like I had mentioned, Craig, we're going to run a little bit long. I'm sorry, man. But, hey, Parks and Rec, thank you. It's Parks and Rec month in July. And I recommend anybody, if you're involved in parks and you see a staff person out there doing anything, if they're checking tickets, sweeping sidewalks or whatever, thank them because they deserve it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, they literally are building community quietly, unthanked, and they're just doing a great job doing it. Well, but Dave, thank you so much for coming on the show today, and thank you for doing such a great job with your show, man. It really is taking off. Really appreciate. Give a big thanks to DJ and Tasha and Joseph and Craig, your whole team over there is just doing a phenomenal job. Really appreciate the support y'all given us.
No, thank you. And Craig, thank you guys and your team behind the scenes, Jovi, Carlo, and everybody that jumps in and helps us produce and make these shows happen. Couldn't do it without you all. And like I said, I'm excited to see where we're headed and continue to grow.
Fantastic. All right. Well, let me go ahead and thank, let's see, up next, coming your way at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, Youth Sports Mastery, hosted by Aaron Locks, featuring a special guest, James Williams. He's one of the area captains for Beaufort County. So stay tuned. Go grab you another cup of coffee. We'll be back soon. And that's a wrap. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see y'all here again next week.
Take care now. Happy 4th.
This episode is brought to you by SDSU's Sports MBA program. If you're passionate about sports and want to work in the women's sports industry, then this is the time to pay attention. SDSU's program is 12 months accelerated hands-on learning where students have actually gotten to work with teams like the San Diego Mojo, partnered with the Farmers Insurance Open, and visited headquarters like the Upper Deck or Callaway Golf. It's built for people who want to be in rooms like that. So if you're interested, deadlines are approaching. Learn more or apply with the links in the description.
In the parks and recreation industry, attention is limited, but influence is everything. Every day, thousands of parks and recreation professionals make critical decisions. Decisions on infrastructure, programs, technology, and vendors. The question is your brand part of that conversation? DPRS Media Network was built to answer that question. We are a dedicated media ecosystem focused exclusively on the parks and recreation industry in the United States. Through a network of daily and weekly shows, we inform, connect, and influence this audience. Our distribution spans multiple platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, plus email campaigns, newsletters, podcasts, and live event coverage. This is not a single-channel strategy. It is a multi-platform media engine. Today, our network reaches over 214,000 connections, including 51,000 on LinkedIn, 64,000 on Facebook, nearly 40,000 email subscribers, and thousands more across podcast and social platforms. While some audiences overlap, our true value is not just reach, it is relevance. We speak directly to parks and recreation directors, program managers, and industry leaders, an audience that is highly targeted and actively engaged. Through DPRS Media Network, your brand integrates seamlessly into this ecosystem. Through sponsored show segments, targeted advertisement placements, podcast features, and host-read promotions, even custom branded content. Not as interruptions, but as part of the conversation. And we don't just operate online. We attend over 15 major parks and recreation conventions each year, reaching more than 24,000 professionals in person. Through live shows, interviews, and on-site media coverage, we position our partners at the center of the industry. Every piece of content we produce is amplified across our entire network. Multiple shows, multiple hosts, multiple platforms. Your message doesn't appear once, it multiplies. This is more than advertising. It is strategic positioning within a trusted media network built specifically for the parks and recreation industry. If your goal is to reach decision makers, build credibility, and stay top of mind, then it's time to partner with DPRS Media Network. Apply for partnership or sponsorship today. Let's position your brand where the industry is already paying attention.